And actually I've been an ASSP member for that long as well. Past president of the Chesapeake chapter, just moved down to this area last year. So as a safety professional, I'm going to share a story with you. It's a story I wish I didn't have to share, but as a safety professional, I feel an obligation to share this story, and I will share this with anybody who's willing to listen. If it's one person, I will do this story, share this story with you. There's a quote that's often attributed to Joseph Stalin, but I understand through research it's an inaccurate attribution. But the quote is, "One death is a tragedy. 1,000 deaths is a statistic." This story is a tragedy. The story takes place along Interstate 95, just south of the city of Baltimore. And so Baltimore's here, this is I-95. We're all familiar with I-95. We've all been on it at some point in time. On January 19th, in 2021, at about 2:30 or so, they set up an emergency work zone to repair potholes. Now, down here, you got big sinkholes. Up there, potholes are like this, just so you have a point of reference, right? So a work crew set up an emergency work zone to repair the potholes, and then traffic had backed up because they had closed the right shoulder and the right two lanes. So left the left two lanes open with the left shoulder open. So traffic began to merge over into the left two lanes. Well, they were just about ready to pick up the work zone. And traffic was moving along on the left two lanes, but very slowly. So at the back end of this backup, there was a Honda Accord and a Kia, and just again barely moving along because of the the backup because of the work zone. So this Chevy Silverado comes up behind the Honda Accord at 65 miles an hour, did not notice that the vehicles in front of him were stopped or going very slowly. So he plows into the back of the Honda. What happened here? Oh.
You hit it again, I think. It looks like your screen's
Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Your screen looks like you just had it.
So anyhow, the force of the impact sends the Honda all the way over to the right lane, but the pickup truck had enough momentum to continue forward, strikes the Kia. The Kia then goes over to the next to the right lane. From behind the pickup truck, there's a Volkswagen that is swerving to avoid the collisions in front of it, hits the Silverado. The Silverado flips and rolls and lands on the other two vehicles, and then the VW then goes over into the guardrail on the left. So this is an aerial shot of the accident scene, and here you can see the VW on the guardrail. This is the Chevy Silverado, that's the Honda, and that's the Kia. A few other pictures from the accident scene there. Again, the Kia, the Silverado, and the Honda. Close-up view of the Honda, the Silverado, another view of the Honda, and a final one. Any guesses what's under the sheet? The body of my son, 30-year-old Luke Souders. He was killed instantly when the Silverado came crashing down on his head. Let me tell you a little bit about Luke. Luke grew up in Ellicott City, Maryland, and he attended high school at Mount Hebron High School in Ellicott City, but like his dad, wasn't a very gifted student academically. His interests were elsewhere, particularly in music. He, age of 13, this kid taught himself how to play guitar, drums, keyboard. He was just naturally inclined. I had no musical talent whatsoever. I don't know where it came from, but he even wrote and recorded a couple of songs. But when he graduated from high school, then he attended University of Maryland at Baltimore County. He picked it up academically there. He graduated with 3.96 GPA with a degree in political science. And while he was there, he really got into the academic thing. And you can, this picture shows he was in at the United Nations doing mock hearings and things like that. So he's starting to turn it around there. Now, you graduate with a degree in political science, what do you do? What do you do with that degree?
You join the army.
You make artwork to sell on T-shirts, which is exactly what Luke did. But he jumped right into the gig economy. He did that, had a website where he sold T-shirts. He was a ghostwriter for an HR consultancy. He what else did he do? He did a couple other gig economy type of things. Then he got a job at a company called Life Science Logistics. And what LSL did is they manage the National Emergency Medical Stockpile for the U.S. government. So the day, and Luke started out as a forklift operator, got promoted twice, and he became their HR coordinator. The day after Luke died, Richard Beeney, the CEO of Life Sciences Logistics, called Luke's mom and I to offer condolences. And one of the things he said really struck home, both as a father and as a safety professional. He said, I want you to know that Luke coordinated distribution of supplies from the emergency medical stockpile and the early vaccine distribution. His actions probably saved hundreds, if not thousands, of lives. And that it's just heartwarming to know. I just wish I had known that, when Luke was alive, because he didn't talk about himself or his work that much. He was a humble kid, but he did some really good things. On the weekends, he worked part-time for an entertainment company called Bubbles Production, where he'd dress up in a costume and go out and entertain kids at birthday parties and that sort of thing. And then he'd come home and tell us the stories about the birthday parties, and some of them were pretty funny. Luke was a good person. He was loved by his family. He was respected by his coworkers. And Luke is the reason I'm here today sharing his story with you. Let me introduce you to somebody else, Dylan Shields. Dylan was the driver of the pickup truck that slammed into Luke's car and eventually rolled on it. Dylan grew up in Marseille, Illinois, and graduated from Seneca High School, where he was captain of the wrestling team and captain of the cross-country team. At the age of 17, Dylan joined the United States Marine Corps. At the age of 20, this kid was the lead IED and minesweeper for the Corps in Afghanistan. Right? This kid put his life on the line for his country. After the Marine Corps, he stayed as a Marine. Hi, come on in. He stayed as a Marine Corps in the Marine Corps Reserves, and he also joined the Veterans Club, where he did things like organize food drives for veterans. He assisted veterans with PTSD. He even fostered dogs when they would go away. So he was doing really good things. Law enforcement was to be his career. He joined the National Security Agency and became a police officer with the National Security Agency, with the NSA at Fort Meade, Maryland, which is where he was working at the time of the accident. So he was a police officer. Like Luke, Dylan Shields was a good person. You know, he's loved by his family. He was respected by his coworkers, both as a police officer and as a Marine. But as we can see, even good people make dumb choices, right? And that's what Dylan Shields did. Okay, so at NSA, when employees go into work in the morning, you can imagine they're not allowed to take their cell phones with them, all right? So they have to either put them in a locker in the front of the building, or a commuter like Shields was, just put it in, lock it in their vehicle. So that's what Shields did. All right, now imagine you're 29 years old, you're dating, you've got a lot of friends. Social media is pretty important to you in 2021, all right? So your phone's been locked away all day. What's the first thing you do when you get off work? You get on your phone, right? You check it out. What did I miss? That's exactly what Shields did. All right, so this is roughly the NSA campus, huge facility. Shields parked in this parking lot right here, all right? When he got into his vehicle at 2:03 p.m. until the time he got onto the exit ramp, 27 minutes later, all right, he was on his phone all but 9 seconds of that time, all but 9 seconds. He was on Gmail, Snapchat, Hinge. That's Apple Messenger, right? Or no, that's Facebook Messenger, Apple Messenger. What's that one? Okay, that's Snapchat, right? No, it's Instagram. Thank you, and Apple Music. So you can tell how often I use these programs, right? So for those 24, those 27 minutes, that's what he was doing. All right. So then he takes 32 on up to get on 95. He gets on 95 right about 32, and Luke is just ahead of him, a couple miles up, entering 95 at Route 175. Okay. On that 9-minute drive or 8-minute drive, whatever it was, from the time he got on 95 until the accident scene, he was on his phone 60% of the time while he was driving with his cruise control set at 65 miles an hour. Okay, he was on Snapchat and Instagram. A little while later, Snapchat, Instagram and Snapchat, Instagram, and then for the last 30 seconds, he was on Snapchat. So we'll take a little bit closer look at that. So, in that 30 seconds, he's driving 65 miles an hour, so he's got about 30 seconds before he gets to where the vehicles in front of him are slowed down. All right? That's a half a mile, 2,700 feet. It's plenty of time, plenty of distance to see what's in front of you and to slow down. All right? I mean, plenty of time. So, he hit his brakes at this point, which was exactly 48 feet from where Luke's vehicle was. 48 feet going at 95 feet per second. All right, half a second, bam, slams into Luke's car. This is the gouge marks from Luke's vehicle. Notice there are no tire marks there. His reaction time was he didn't give himself any reaction time. The best drivers can slow a vehicle going 60 miles an hour in 5.5 seconds, from first reaction to complete stop in 5.5 seconds. He gave himself 1/2 second at 65 miles an hour. Now, I often wonder, did Luke see him coming in the rearview mirror? Did he maybe try to get into the other lane to get out of the way? Is that why he was pushed over that way? I don't know. After the initial collision, did he think, oh my God, I survived that, only to be snuffed out a second later? We'll never know. So, this is the witness statement that Shields gave to the Maryland State Police. I was traveling northbound on I-95. Cruise control was set at 65 miles per hour. I changed lanes in order to take I-695 exit on the left. Last thing I remember, I was taking a drink of my Monster and trying to put it back. Next thing I know, my truck is on its side. Okay, that's a written statement he gave the Maryland State Police. Trooper First Class Rose of Maryland State Police wrote on his report, I was approached by the driver of vehicle number 1, Dylan Russell Shields. Shields provided me with his witness statement at the time. I asked Shields if everything he had written was true and accurate. He advised it was. He then asked me if I knew where his phone was. I advised him I did not. However, if I found it, I would let him know. He then asked me if there was any way to prove that somebody was not using their cell phone at a particular time. He was very concerned with his phone. So, they searched for the phone. All around the scene, looked on the ground, looked in his truck, looked everywhere. They couldn't find the phone. So before Shields left, he gave them the passcode to get into his phone if they found it. They found the phone. After they towed Luke's car away, it was under Luke's car. Shields' phone was under Luke's car. They found the phone, they opened it up, they put in the passcode, and this is what came up. Snapchat was open with the keyboard open and a partially composed message and a selfie. There's absolutely no question whatsoever why Shields didn't see what was going on in front of him. For this, my son is dead. Now let's talk about the consequences. This is a photo of I-95 northbound taken at I-195, which is about a mile south of where the accident occurred. So you can see traffic was completely stopped. It was a good 4 hours for they shut all of 95 northbound down, did the accident investigation, so it was a good 4 hours. People who were stuck in here were stuck. They couldn't get by for 4 hours in January. Right? All the vehicles coming up from behind there then had to exit off onto I-195. So there's a lot of people inconvenienced there. One consequence. Remember, there were 4 vehicles in that accident. Shields' pickup truck, Luke's Honda, and the Kia were all totaled. All right. Between the 3 vehicles, one of the other operators ended up in University of Maryland shock trauma. He survived, but the insurance companies paid out over $500,000 in claims for that one crash. That's just the vehicles, the medical expenses, and the death benefits. I don't know if they had to pay for cleanup or anything like that, but they may have. But it had to be over $500,000 there. All right. Consequences for Dylan Shields. The Baltimore County grand jury handed down a 7-count indictment against Dylan Shields. Negligent manslaughter, which was a felony, can carry up to 10 years in prison. A misdemeanor manslaughter, all right, can carry up to 5 years in prison. In Maryland, there's this thing called Jake's Law, using a handheld device causing an accident leading to serious injury or death. That can be that's a misdemeanor, and that's 1 year in prison. And then there were 4 traffic violations, all right? So he's facing that, all right? He was offered a plea deal, which he accepted, which was plead guilty to felony charge. All of the charges will be dropped. He accepted that plea deal. Judge Robson of Baltimore County Circuit Court gave him 10 years with all but 6 suspended, meaning he was going to serve six months in jail, the Baltimore County Detention Center. 2 years of supervised probation, no contact with Luke's family, 100 hours of community service, attendance of victim impact panel meetings, MVA driver improvement program. Then he's got to reimburse the county for probation services. All right. He ended up spending 106 nights in jail. And the rest he got off for good behavior, whatever formula that they use. And people ask me, is that fair? Is that justice? And I don't know the answer to that question. 106 days for killing somebody doesn't seem like a lot. But there's more. The real sentence, or the real justice here is that, remember, he was a police officer. He is now a convicted felon. All right? He cannot get a security clearance, so he can't go back onto a military base now. Police departments don't hire convicted felons, so he cannot be a police officer. And he won't be on a military base. And what I meant to say up here, since he worked at NSA, he had a security clearance, top secret security clearance. Can't get that anymore. His career's over. It's done. To me, that's more of an impact than spending 106 nights in jail. All right? So, here's a kid. He was enthusiastic about what he's doing. He had the world in the palm of his hands. And he was going places. He was going through things. Boom, wiped out. Why? Because he didn't have the patience to not be distracted while he was driving. Okay. This is Dylan Shields' testimony prior to his sentencing.
That's another way of saying you can tell me anything you want before I impose a sentence. You don't have to say anything, and if you choose to remain silent, your silence will not be ready to impose a sentence. Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Your Honor, I do know that Dylan would like to address the court as well.
Okay. I just put these subtitles together, so I haven't had a chance to work through them yet.
You don't have to say anything, and if you choose to remain silent, your silence will not be ready to impose a sentence. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. If I stand right here, right there is fine.
There we go.
All right. What I gotta say, I'm not gonna speak on how this has affected me, because it doesn't have comparison to what the second family is going through.
Imagine being in that position, because of taking a selfie or whatever, drunk driving, anything. Imagine being in that position, having to apologize to the family of someone that you killed. But you didn't set out to do it that day. It's just the way the day went. All right. Consequences to Luke are obvious. At the time, he was living in an apartment in Catonsville, Maryland. He had a basement apartment. That day, he was on his way to meet up with his best friend, Elvis. They were going to look at a house that they were going to rent together and move in together. Obviously, Luke did not make it. So, really struck Elvis hard. Elvis they had been best friends since high school. All of a sudden, they're looking, to be roommates, and now Luke's gone. Diane, Luke's stepmom, says Luke's passing has left a Luke-sized hole in all of our hearts, and it certainly has. I couldn't begin to explain what that means, but I'll do this. This is what Luke's brother Zach had to say prior to Dylan Shields being sentenced.
Judge, I believe that the victim's brother would like to speak to the court as well.
Zachary Daniel Souders, Souders. My brother Luke very much enjoyed working in HR because it gave him a lot of contact with his coworkers. He was equally loved by his coworkers in return. He was close with several of them. They would hang out and play poker outside of work. Luke loved trying all different types of foods from all different parts of the world. He especially loved foods that had a lot of flavor and spice, like any type of Indian food or tacos, just to name a few. He enjoyed going to concerts, music festivals, and making music of his own. He enjoyed traveling with his family. He enjoyed his part-time job as a mascot entertainer. He was very good at bringing smiles to kids' faces. He enjoyed hanging out with his best friend and playing him in chess or watching the Ravens games. He was excited to get an apartment with them and become roommates. When Duke was driving home from work on that Tuesday, I'm sure he never imagined that he would. That he wouldn't make it home, and he wouldn't be able to do any of those things ever again. 2 years before Luke was killed, my mom, Jay, and I had dinner for the last time with him. When Luke talked everything he had to say was always really thought-provoking and interesting. During that dinner, he had told a few stories as they came up in conversation. They were great stories. I never imagined that in the future there would be numerous stories or conversations with Luke at family functions. He was greatly missed. I often think about childhood memories I shared with Luke. I never imagined that he wouldn't be here to remember them with me. If I could talk to him now, I would ask him if he remembers the time that we were playing hide and go seek. He hid it in the fireplace. I never did find him, and he had to give himself up. When he did, he came out and he was all covered in soot. It was really funny. Up until the day he died, Luke was always making people laugh. Without him, there's a lot less laughter in the world. As my parents have gotten to the age of retirement, I realized that one day their souls will depart from this world. I'd imagine that Luke and I would be there for each other and go through it together. Instead, one day I'll have to bury my mom and dad as their only child. Thank you.
Just go home today, and every time that you get in your vehicle, I would ask you to remember Luke. Remember Luke by locking your phone away, put it in the dash glove box, put it in the center console, turn it off and throw it in the back seat, whatever. Just get rid of the phone. Or, as I do, utilize your phone safety features. I have an Apple phone, an iPhone. Apple CarPlay's got wonderful features in it. I have it set that if I get a text, it automatically responds. I'm driving, I'll see your text when I get to where I'm going. If somebody calls me, there are two people who know this, Diane, my boss. I'm not going to answer the phone. If they really need to talk to me, they'll call back a second time. I won't answer, but I'll pull over or get off the highway or whatever, and then I'll call them back. All right. Whatever it is isn't important enough that you need to answer your phone right then and there. Okay. You know, there's the hands-free feature. I don't even do that anymore. Keep your phone out of your sight and out of your hands. Right? Obviously, you know, you saw the picture. Shields had that phone. You know, he was looking away from looking at the road ahead of him, and eliminate all distractions. Right. Dylan Shields is a good person. Luke Souders is a good person. Was a good person, and I don't want any families to go through what my family, Luke's friends, Luke's coworkers, or Dylan Shields for that matter, has had to go through just because somebody wasn't paying attention to what they were doing. So, thank you for allowing me to be here today. As I said, I'm happy to do this presentation I've done it for as large as 200. I've done it for groups as small as 1. So if you've got if you got a 15 or 16-year-old, I'm happy to do it. If your church group, your homeowners association or whatever, I'm happy to present this to your employees. I've done it many times. I'll do it as many times as I have to. So,
can I have a question? And
yes,
I don't know
please.
if I missed it or not, but did Dylan have any injuries?
No, he was not injured.
But his truck flipped?
His truck flipped and he was not injured.
But there was...
The guy in the Kia, the lead car, did go to shock trauma, but I think he was released the next day. Luke was the only serious injury. Yeah.
Wow. And mostly because of the impact of it? Was it also some of the build of the Accord, year it was made, or...?
I don't think I had the airbags deployed and all that. It's just that his skull was fractured in 3 places, and it came down on his head. So, I don't think they make roof. Yeah.
Wow. And, sorry, he was the younger brother or the older?
I'm sorry?
He was younger or the older brother?
Luke was the older brother by 4 years. Yeah. Any other either technical questions or I don't mind answer personal questions either. One of the things I learned, okay, there was no trial. All right, so since he pleaded guilty, accepted the plea guilt, there was no trial. As a safety professional, I got to know the details. I got to know what happened during that accident. I mean, we knew he had been taking a selfie and his cruise control was set on 65 miles an hour, which is the speed limit. It's fine. I do that, so I don't speed. That makes sense, right? But didn't know the details. So I got the case file after the trial, about 800 pages thick, and people, your phone tracks everything you do. I got his Dylan Shields' phone readout. I could tell you what was on his iPhone playlist. I can tell you where he was at any given second that day, because it's all there in the file, in the police report. All I had to do is take that raw data and turn it into the maps that you saw.
Is that something the police department subpoenas the phone carrier?
No, because they got a warrant. They didn't have to subpoena the phone carrier, but Shields gave them permission to look in his phone. that was one of the things I learned, and as I said, as a safety professional, I needed to know what those details were. So that's, as I'm looking through that and I'm plotting things out, I'm thinking there's a story here, and you know that's why I'm here now.
Well,
Lori?
one of the lessons that I, you know, if anyone else has suggestions, I love them. I'm now of the age where I need my readers, and when I travel in rental cars, I have my Apple CarPlay that kind of comes up,
Uh-huh.
and for the map of where to go. But there's times where I look and I cannot read the exit number or something like that, and then it's nighttime. Like, I honestly freaked out. I'm like, I can't watch the road. Am I supposed to take the exit? Am I not? Like, how do you get around that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I felt completely, like, absolutely unsafe. So I'm like, I don't know. I guess it's just me, like, if you take a wrong turn, you take a wrong turn. Don't try to.
That's the way I look at it. You know, if you know you missed your exit, don't be that person that backs up.
Right.
You know, go down the next exit, make a U-turn, and come back.
I always say silly the loss,
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
Listen to her.
Like,
Sound on, but-
just
Sometimes she screws you up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not always flawless, it's not always on time, and like in
Right.
Dallas.
Right. Now, yeah, I do plug my phone in, and I use the GPS. And then, you know, you got that little button, you can turn the sound up. That Siri will tell you where to go. You know, Diane usually tells me where to go, but if she's not there, Siri will.
That's right, it'll tell you too late or too
Yeah.
early and take a wrong turn.
I guess just know you're gonna figure it out and get your way, but yeah, that was my experience recently.
Dan, I also, I work for Lennox HVAC, and we manage about 1,000 vehicles.
Right.
And I just had an area meeting, and I presented a topic about distracted driving. And these phones are dopamine. It's just an addiction. It's not our era, it's the younger generation. That's their umbilical cord. They can't put this thing down without missing a text or a like or.
Right.
And I keep telling them, even my daughter just started driving at 16, put the damn phones down. I gave her these bracelets. All her students in school want the bracelets now, and so just raising that awareness, you know, something's got to change. We got to do something.
Yeah.
This just continues to happen.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I know I'm not going to change the world doing it, but you know, I've had plenty of people come up to me and say, "That's it. I hear what you're saying. I'm putting my phone down as of right now." And
I even changed my habits because I'm going to be totally transparent. I had the habit of whenever I was either at a stoplight or a stop sign, I would just look down and see if I missed a text or anything. I don't even do that anymore. It totally changed my mindset, and I put it on driving.
And I wonder if you know, does technology save us in this instance of, you know, is AI gonna get good and know, like it shuts down when it sees your eyeballs and you're driving, or, you know, like,
yeah,
maybe
maybe.
it could, but like you're saying, it is the dopamine, and is that really just, like, not the Band-Aid that we need? I mean, but yay, it could be a safety feature. That's just kind of where my.
I think
Something
if your-
totally
If
disabled.
your car can detect when you're driving, or like your phone, and connects to CarPlay wirelessly, I don't see why it can't lock your phone down.
Right.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we could get, because yeah, I've had rental cars sometimes that they're like, eyes on the road, like they can, or where your
Well, watch your GPS.
where your hands are.
If you're driving, like you can't,
Oh, I haven't,
you can't use.
You can't input, yeah.
yeah, so it's behaviorally or technology, or hopefully some marriage of the two, that people get off of the addictions of their phones, but
Yeah.
maybe even,
But
anyway,
even-
deep thoughts.
Even just as important, you know, we have Bluetooth devices where we're not using our phones, right? But still, we have to go onto that screen, and some of us, you know, with Siri, we can, you know, verbally say something, but there's still those other people that 1 second are just looking on the screen and changing a song, or clicking something on that screen on Apple, on you know,
Yeah.
Apple Play.
It
That's all it
takes
takes
your
is 1
eyes away
second.
for a second.
1
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, and you don't realize how far you've gone. One of the things I learned, I didn't know this, was The stripes, the white stripes on the interstates, they're 10 feet long. I didn't know. I didn't either. And they're spaced 20 feet.
Okay.
So from one end of one to the other end of the other is 50 feet. So think about that. 2 stripes.
How fast you pass, you know?
Two stripes is the distance between the time he saw Luke and the time he hit him. You know.
Yeah, I only remember that, like, you're supposed to count however many seconds from the car in front of you passing
3
something.
seconds.
We use 2, 3 seconds. 3 is always ideal, but.
Right.
Nowadays,
More.
you need one and somebody's gonna.
Yeah, somebody-
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's
Yeah.
why, you know, I was raised in Ohio, they taught us, you know, defensive driving. We had mandatory driver's ed down here, that doesn't exist.
Mm.
Is that what it is? Is that why the drivers are so awful?
I mean, I'm sure there's a law in it, that's about drivers.
There's a lot of bad
Sorry.
apples.
I also had the 16-year-old new driver down here, but she was, she got the license in Colorado, or the beginnings of
It
it.
was a requirement that we went to driver's school for 2 weeks and we got, you had to do drive times with the instructor, and then your parents had to sign off on the waiver.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's
they
what it
teach
was
you
when we
defensive
did.
Driving here,
It's
I don't know
easy
anyone
here.
that's ever taken a driver's course
No,
here,
it's easy here.
and it's aggressive driving here.
That's interesting. Mm.
Was it mandatory though?
No, it was an elective.
No, see, it's like a legal requirement, you cannot get your driver's license without the affidavit from them.
I'm totally gonna push to put so our youngest is gonna be 15 in December, and I think the school that he goes to has some sort of a driving whatever, and for sure I'll ask if they have a speaker that, you know, can bring in.
I'd be more than happy to do it.
Because I think to speak to the kids, who have the addiction is the biggest.
Yeah, you know, people first started telling me, oh, you need to get this in the schools, you need to get it in schools. And, you know, my first reaction was, I don't know if I can communicate with that demographic, but people tell me that the story speaks for itself.
I think
So,
you can do it,
yeah, so,
you communicated it.
yeah.
Well, I mean, how old was Shields?
He was 29, Luke was 30.
29. I think you need to hit it at the pass. You need to get it to the juniors and seniors that are starting to drive.
Yeah,
It's OSHA's #1 killer is driving
sure.
in fatalities in vehicles.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.